The two Luthers, a century apart, but spiritually aligned. Did you know we have not one, but two Martin Luthers? Two men born 4 centuries apart, yet united by conviction. One faced an empire of religion, the other faced an empire of race. Both wielded words sharper than any weapon, and both believed that truth, once spoken, could set humanity free. The first Luther. Our journey begins in medieval Germany, a time when the Roman Catholic Church ruled faith, politics, and thought. Salvation had become a transaction. People paid indulgences to escape punishment after death. Fear was currency, and the Church was the bank. But one monk dared to question it all. His name was Martin Luther. Born in 1483 in Eisleben, Germany, Luther's early path pointed to law. But after surviving a violent thunderstorm, he vowed to serve God and became an Augustinian monk. Years of fasting, confession, and penance followed, yet peace never came. Until, through reading Paul's letter to the Romans, he grasped a simple truth. Salvation is by faith alone, not through rituals or payments. That revelation shook him to his core. And in 1517, when a friar named Johann Tetzel began selling indulgences near Wittenberg, Luther's conscience erupted. He drafted 95 statements, his 95 theses, denouncing corruption and questioning papal authority. Then, he nailed them to the castle church door. That hammer strike sparked the Protestant Reformation. The printing press carried his words across Europe like wildfire. To the poor, he was a prophet. To the powerful, a heretic. In 1521, Luther stood before Emperor Charles V at the Diet of Worms, alone against throne and church. He was ordered to recant. He refused. "Here I stand," he declared. "I can do no other." It was the birth of conscience over conformity. Branded an outlaw, Luther hid in Wartburg Castle under the name Junker Jörg. There, in exile, he translated the New Testament into German, allowing common people to read the Bible themselves. It transformed both religion and language. Luther's writings reshaped Europe. He composed hymns, including "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." He married a former nun, Katharina von Bora, defying celibacy laws and modeling family life for Protestant clergy. His challenge also unleashed chaos. Movements inspired by his message, like the Peasants' Revolt, turned violent, though Luther condemned the bloodshed. His Reformation soon spread beyond Germany, birthing new denominations and reshaping nations. He spent his final years teaching and preaching until his death in 1546 in Eisleben, but his revolution endured. Martin Luther had freed faith from fear, scripture from secrecy, and truth from chains. The second Luther. Nearly 400 years later, another Martin Luther emerged, born under a different kind of power. In 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, a child named Michael King Jr. entered a world divided by color. His father, Michael King Sr., was a Baptist pastor who traveled to Germany in 1934. There, he learned of the first Luther, the monk who fought tyranny with faith. Inspired, he returned to America and renamed both himself and his son, Martin Luther King Sr. and Martin Luther King Jr. It was more than a name, it was a mission reborn. King Jr. grew into a voice of reason and faith. A gifted student, he entered Morehouse College at 15, studied theology at Crozer Seminary, and later earned his PhD from Boston University. There he discovered Gandhi's philosophy of non-violence, realizing that love itself could be the mightiest form of resistance. He carried that belief back to the American South, where segregation still defined daily life. In 1955, he was just 26 when Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus. King stepped forward and led the Montgomery bus boycott that lasted 381 days. Buses ran empty, communities united, and the Supreme Court declared segregation unconstitutional. A new movement had been born. Over the next decade, King became the moral core of America's conscience. He led campaigns in Birmingham, where police dogs and fire hoses met peaceful protesters. From a jail cell, he wrote the Letter from Birmingham Jail, defending civil disobedience and moral responsibility. He reminded America that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Then came 28 August 1963, the March on Washington.
Before a sea of 250,000 people, King stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and delivered his dream, not just for America, but for humanity.
His voice carried beyond race, beyond time, beyond fear. The world listened. In 1964, he became the youngest man ever awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He led marches in Selma for voting rights, confronted poverty through the Poor People's Campaign, and spoke out against the war in Vietnam, daring to challenge power on every front. But his courage came at a high cost. The FBI labeled him the most dangerous Negro in America. Threats and betrayal shadowed him constantly. Yet he walked on, believing that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. On 4th of April 1968, while standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. He was 39. But the bullet that took his life could not silence his voice. His dream lived, in movements, in memories, in the unyielding belief that love and truth are stronger than hate and fear. The echo between them. Two men, 2 centuries, one spirit. One freed faith from falsehood, the other freed freedom from division. Both faced empires built on control. Both chose truth over safety. Martin Luther tore down gates of corruption with theology. Martin Luther King Jr. tore down walls of racism with compassion. Different worlds, same fire. History does not repeat itself. It rhymes through courage. Every few centuries, a new Luther rises when silence grows too heavy. They remind us that one person's conviction can rewrite the story of civilization. The first Luther reformed faith, the second reformed humanity, and together their names became a thread of continuity that stretches across time, whispering that no empire lasts forever, but truth always does. Because truth always finds its Luther. When you think of Martin Luther and Martin Luther King Jr., remember this: power fades, empires fall, but words, once spoken in truth, echo forever. Each man stood against a system no one dared to challenge, and neither waited for permission. They proved that conviction does not need a crown, a title, or an army. It only needs courage. Their voices reached across centuries to remind us. The hammer and the dream were the same act of faith. Both struck at the walls of fear and cracked them open. Maybe the question now is not who they were, but who we become, because history always waits for the next Luther. If their courage moved you, do not let it end here. Share this story. Keep the echo alive. Subscribe to The Summary Cave where we bring forgotten voices back to life, one story at a time. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and above all, keep standing for truth.